Thank you for tuning in. You're watching Burnham Podcast on YouTube or maybe on Rumble. You can also find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. So wherever you found it, know that you can find it other places too. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, here's how you can help. Head over to patreon.com/Burnham Project. Thank you very much. So I've known tonight's guest since he was 9 years old. Coached him in upward basketball, and then again in high school football. Coached his little brothers. We've had run a lot of a similar timeline throughout the last 25 years or so, and it's great to have him on and be able to sit down with him again tonight. We get into some seriously heavy stuff, and we have our share of laughs too. We got Mr. Lyle Morris on tonight. Welcome to Burnham Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Burnham. Us this time. It's on. There comes so we're live just like that.
Welcome to Burnham Podcast.
Right. With Lyle Morris. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Can't complain.
It is so good to have you on.
You too, buddy. Yes, good to be here.
Yeah,
good to be here.
Buddy. That's not inappropriate, I guess.
Don't you? Good to have you on your own show.
It's great to be. I wasn't on my own show last week.
Oh, somebody else was.
Chris hosted.
There you go.
And he was on with Ishmael Woods. They go way back. So I was like, hey, man, do this interview. I was like, okay. I'm trying to boost him into his own podcast.
Yes. He started it a couple years ago,
He
right?
had a great thing going with Pile Perspective, and I'm trying to get him going again
Yeah.
and get him some exposure and push him out of the nest. And anyway, so I wasn't on. So it's great to be back on my own podcast.
There you go.
I sat right over there and watched. But I was trying to think today, when was the last time I actually saw you?
I was thinking that on the way over here. I've seen your whole family, I feel like, since I've seen you last.
How long have you been in North Carolina?
It'll be 2 years in January.
Really?
So yeah, almost.
Holy Moses Malone.
Almost 2 years. And I know I saw Drew like right before I left. I feel like he was in town, and then I'm sure I've seen your mom around. And then
everybody sees mom.
Your other brother with the long hair,
Matt.
Matt. Okay,
Yeah.
I know I gave him a quote on the roof one time before I left. So,
okay.
Yeah, I saw your whole family.
Good. Well, except for me.
But
now you're here.
You.
People are like, a lot of people have been like, hey, let's hang out. And I'm like, bro, you got to come on the podcast because that's this is my social life now. It's the time I have to talk to people. I just got to get you on. We can sit down and hang out.
There's only so many hours of the day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And a wise missionary was on here a couple months ago now. And it said, he made this super clear to me. He said, a yes somewhere is a no somewhere else.
That's right.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
And,
And that's hard to, for me anyways, that's hard to learn sometimes because I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that too.
Right.
Especially when I was very involved with church. It was like, yep. And then 7 days a week, I'm like doing something.
Right.
You gotta.
It's something else besides family and wife and all that stuff.
Yeah. So you gotta, man, you gotta really take care of your time.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. Yeah. So
speaking of time, though, we go way back as it turns out.
Yes, we do.
We weren't exactly sure how far. So it's 20. When you're listening to this, who knows when it'll be? But right now it's 2023.
Yep.
And we kind of narrowed down to like 99, 2000.
Yeah.
When I coached you in upward basketball.
Yeah. So
that's wild, right?
Yeah. What's 13, 14 years? Something like
20 years, Lyle.
99. Oh yeah, it's not. It's 2023.
24 years.
It's been 10 years since I graduated high school. It's been more. It's been 14 years.
14 years since you, because you're the same age as Drew, right?
Yeah. God, time flies. Yeah. We
right.
graduated together, me and Drew.
Yeah. 09.
Wow.
See how fast it goes?
So yeah, 20 something years. Okay.
It's been a while. And then I coached you again in high school.
That's right.
Yeah. Fantastic, man. You and all your brothers and
yes,
the Morris bunch could have. Like I watched you guys grow up and come through school and all that, and the Morris boys reminded me so much of the Burnham boys.
Yeah.
My three brothers, and all this knucklehead stuff we got into. But
that's right.
Man, so that's sort of the background. What are you up to now?
Yeah, so now, like we mentioned, I've lived in Raleigh with my wife and two kids since 2021, January of 2021. And this last year, I opened my own roofing company. Been doing the roofing thing for since 2018, I guess, and moved up there to take a job that was supposed to be a lot more money, and it was, but there was a lot of I didn't jive with the culture of the company, and that's big. And another thing that would happen is, as a salesman in the roofing industry, is kind of how it works for most places. You're an independent contractor, so you go acquire this customer, you nurture that customer, you make sure that, you build this trusting relationship. And me, anyways, I really wanted what was best for them.
Right.
And then I would hand it off to the office at this company in North Carolina, and they dropped the ball kind of over and over and over. And I'm like, what else am I going to do? Like, I moved my whole family up here 500 miles away. And I was getting, at the time, it's funny how things just kind of work out back to the time thing, I guess. It's the timing of it all. I was getting a lot of referrals directly to me from this business networking group I'm a part of. And I kind of realized these people are giving me these referrals, which were typically, these are business owners, so this was typically their clients, right, or family member or friend, and they would say, hey, I know, and this person would need a roofer. They would say, hey, I know Lyle. And I realized they were giving me these referrals because they trusted me, not because this big company, was backing me. So I was like, I kind of looked at Alexa one day, my wife, and I was like, I think just should start my own company. And she's like, and she's usually like, my head's usually in the clouds, like 30,000 feet. And she's like right here at ground level, like, nope, let's bring you down to reality a little bit. So when she was like, yeah, I think you should too, I was like, all right, here we go.
Man, Alexa is nothing if not honest. Like, she'll just tell it, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And she does. She's kind of like, we balance each other out so much because I'm always looking forward and trying to, I've got big plans, and I can see what's coming. And she's like looking around, sometimes, and is like, listen, dreamer boy, you gotta bring
eat,
this
right?
back down. So let's cool it a little bit. But she's amazing. And I couldn't do it without her. But she looked at me and was like, yeah, I think you should. And so we started it in August of last year, so 2022. Right around August of this year, late July, August, I had gone through a couple of salesmen already, but this one guy, he was kind of working for a company that was similar to one I had been with, and they did a lot of exterior construction. And he's like, dude, we hung out about a week. He would just ride to jobs. He was like picking my brain, asking me tons of questions about my vision and what I really wanted for the company. And he's like, dude, I want to come work for you, and let's just build this thing. And so we expanded. We're doing really anything exterior on the outside of the house. So roof down. So roofing, siding, windows, decks, and concrete. And that's just been in the last 3 months, and we've done a ton of jobs. And, the work just keeps coming. So, hey.
You keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to change the name of your business?
Yeah. So it was ERS Roofing, and we can get into what ERS stands for later. But ERS Roofing, that's still the legal name of it.
Right.
But I kind of flirted with the idea of ERS Roofing and Construction, and I kind of changed the name on like the social medias and stuff, and was answering the phone, ERS Roofing and Construction. And then I was like, hey, that's kind of a mouthful.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It's probably the driving factor. It's a mouthful. But then the other thing was like, I want the construction aspect of it to be more conveyed. And so, I think I've still got to go down to the powers that be in Raleigh and make sure we do the DBA. But probably just change it to ERS Construction.
It makes sense.
And
it's a comprehensive name. It covers all that way. I mean, you really, long term, you get into plumbing and electrical,
anything,
and
exactly.
Whatever you want to do.
Because the idea is like, well, should I do exteriors, like ERS exteriors? And then, again, I'm pigeonholing myself.
Yeah.
So I think construction is what we're going to land on. And got the logo made and everything. Just got to do, there's always a little lag in the plans.
Right. Yeah.
And what actually takes place.
I mean, you're the guy, right? You're it.
Exactly.
You don't have like a team as far as that goes, and as far as running the business.
Right.
And you look up the chain, right? And then you realize you're at the top of it.
Oh, I'm it. Yeah. The buck stops with me.
Yeah. So this is the first time you ever been the boss before?
Yeah. Well, I started, so after I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work for a year with my dad in the machine shop. Then I went to school for a little bit, used my GI Bill. But then when I met Alexa, I knew within like 2 weeks I wanted to marry her.
Right.
So I was like, I got to figure out a way to make some money because I wasn't making it in school. And so, yeah, I actually started my own cleaning business back then. That would have been
I remember that.
2015, maybe. I did that for like two. So I did it by myself for like a year, and then basically had my cousin start doing a lot of the cleaning for me, and I took another job. So it was kind of like I wasn't making as much money after a while, but it was something while I had this other job too. So yeah, I mean, hindsight, looking back, I wish I would have just kept that going. But yeah, that was it was a good learning experience. Yeah. So that was my
That's
other
a low risk venture.
Yeah. Not a lot of overhead or startup costs.
Trucks and equipment and all that stuff.
Yeah. Not much liability compared to construction.
Right. So Alexa has started her own thing too, right? Yeah,
she's doing virtual assistant. So she's been a nurse since pretty much the whole time we've been married, and when COVID started, she started doing local travel assignments. Mm-hmm. So she was making great money and also getting to stay home every night because they were local.
Right.
So when we moved to Raleigh, she was doing that, and then like right around, I think it was August of this year, right when my business started taking off, she tore her ACL, and so she couldn't go to work. So she's been wanting to do something on her own, something on the side for like 4 years. And what she told me is like, I feel like this was God's way of sitting me down and giving me time to kind of think about it and figure out what I can do, use the skills I have to do something on my own. And so that's what she's done. She signed a few clients, and she's also so I have these I call them the girls, but it's the right-hand admin team. That's a company a friend of mine, Crystal, started, and what they do is they help small businesses with like their systems and processes, and then they handle all of the back-end stuff if you want them to. So I was having them handle all the back-end admin stuff, and now Alexa is. So it's a lot of good practice for her, I guess you could say, and she's learning what all it takes to run a construction company.
Right.
Which is a lot more than
as it
she
turns
thought.
Out, right? Just call people and go, hey, let us build you a house. Or
Yeah. Give me your money.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. So how did you start in roofing in general?
Yeah, good question. So I started, I took a job. It was a sales job after I left. So I mentioned earlier, I went to the machine shop right out of high school. Then I had my own cleaning business. And actually the job that I went back to after I had the cleaning business going for a little bit was at the same machine shop, but I was doing sales. Mm-hmm. So that rocked on for a couple years. And then I saw an ad for a job, roofing sales, and the timing just kind of worked out. So I took that, and what we were doing was I worked at a manufacturer. We made the actual metal panels. Okay. And so I learned a lot about the roofing side of things there. And then I jumped around a lot before I started my own business. I worked there for about 5 or 6 months, and there was a lot of reasons to leave. So I was like, I see the writing on the wall here. Yeah. And so from there, I went and worked for, you probably know him, Wes Bridges.
I feel like I should.
He is, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he had a recovery group going on called Crossroads for a long time. Yeah. And anyways, he does, I don't think he does anymore, but what he was doing at the time was roof inspections for insurance companies. Mm-hmm. And so we would travel all over the place, Birmingham to Stone Mountain, and then up to Raleigh, all through South Carolina, and then stay in the Raleigh area. So I was going back and forth for a week after I started working for him. And that's kind of how I got used to climbing on roofs. I learned so much about how to measure roofs, and it's called squaring them up. You measure them, and then you got to figure out, like, using geometry. If anybody remembers that from back in high school, you take your parallelograms and your different, geometrical shapes, and you get an area, and you measure the roof that way. And so I learned a lot there. And but the travel, it was too much traveling. Yeah. And Ezra turned 1 year old, and I was like, I just missed 6 months of his life. I kind of need to do something. And right about that time is when TK Hamilton called me. It's funny, man. I was in Chattanooga and he called me and he's like, first thing he asked me, he's like, how you doing, man? I was like, I'm good. And he's like, what are you doing now? I said, I'm doing roof inspections for insurance companies. He's like, you like all that traveling? It's like, nah, not really. So he's like, well, come talk to me.
Yeah.
And we did, and I met with him, met with Dom, and Dom's kind of the guy who helps him run everything over there at Midian, and started working for them, man, and loved it. And didn't want to leave, didn't plan on leaving. I kind of saw myself working there for a long time. Yeah. And then, man, it's just weird. Like, me and Alexa, we've kind of just decided, like, let's just go for these things, especially if we feel like, you know, God gives us the freedom to do it or whatever. Yeah. Like, maybe like 2 months before we moved, she was like, maybe 3 months, 2 to 3 months. It wasn't long. She was like, she just looked at me one day and was like, what if we just picked up and moved somewhere? Ooh. And that's all I need to hear. I was like, all right, where? What are we doing? And she's like, I don't know. You know, it was kind of almost in passing. And I guess she just kept thinking about it. So that was 2 years ago, because at Thanksgiving 2021 is when we kind of was like, all right, we're officially deciding that, yes, we're going to move to Raleigh.
Yeah.
And we did, and haven't looked back. And to be honest, like, moving up there together, realizing that we can make it together has been, like, really good for our marriage. Yeah, really good, and brought us closer as a family.
Well, did you know anybody in Raleigh when you moved there?
No, I knew. Well, I had met the guy who I had talked to and kind of lined a job up.
Right.
I knew him from in passing, working up there.
Yeah, but it's not like your parents or your brothers across town. And I got a flat tire, come help me out.
Yeah,
whatever,
nothing.
You know,
nothing like that. And that was hard. The biggest challenge has been just no help with the kids.
Yeah.
No unpaid help with the kids. Let's put it that way. Because there's plenty of people who.
You got to find some rando to take care of your kids, right? And build a relationship with them.
Yeah. And luckily we've had really good luck with babysitters. But I mean, you start looking at a monthly budget, and if both parents are working and you're paying somebody $20 an hour, it adds up quick. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
And
it's almost better if one of you just stays home at that point.
So yeah, that's kind of how we got to Raleigh, and it didn't make sense while we were moving. Like, even like, you know, TK telling him I was moving. Our families, obviously, they didn't like it. We were taking I think Eliza was like, so she was born in March of 21, so she was 10 months old when we moved. I can't.
Taking the grandbabies away.
I mean, looking back at it, this is 2 years later, and I'm like, dang, that was kind of crazy. But we did it. But at the time, it was like we both had total peace.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, this is good. And it has been. But yeah, it's been a challenge for sure. But it's brought us closer at the same time.
I mean, did you have that about you at any point in your life before that, where you were like, I could just go somewhere? I mean, I guess you were in the Marines and you spent time on a boat and all that good stuff.
Exactly. So I kind of have that itch anyways. Like, if you were to say, hey, in a year from now, are you going to be in Raleigh? Like, my plan is yes.
Yeah.
But we're always open to whatever.
Scares me to death.
I kind of, I think that first leap is the hardest one.
Yeah.
From here to Raleigh was like, because she'd never lived outside of Rome, Georgia.
Right.
I had just briefly, you know, for the 4 years I was in the Marine Corps, I came right back home after that. And I think once we realized, because that severance, that initial severance with the family, and just like having my mom 5 minutes down the road, we lived on the same road as her parents. Like, my mom or her mom, somebody was getting them every single day from, you know, the babysitter.
Man.
It was a lot. I didn't realize how much easier that was, you know, but
it's one of those things, I guess, doesn't really hit you until like you wake up the first day in the new place.
Yep.
And you're like, hey, can one of y'all come get these kids for a little while? And there's just not anybody.
They're 8 hours away.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's tough. But it's not. I mean, 8 hours that's like my limit, right? If the drive is longer than 8 hours.
For like a one-day drive or something, yeah.
So that's not the end of the world. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know both of your parents. And I can't imagine either one of y'all going, hey, can y'all come up and like them just be in the car already by the time you're done asking?
Oh, for 100%.
Yeah, I know Roxy for sure.
My mom, yeah. So she, I don't know how many months in a row it was, but when we first moved, it's like she was up there every month.
Wow. And that surprises nobody.
No,
right?
no. And, my dad came a couple times.
Yeah.
But even, when was it? Alexa had her class reunion like a few weeks ago, and my mom just came up to help me with the kids on the weekend. So any chance she can get, she's there.
Well, that's the grandmother we knew that she always would be, right? Like we all saw that coming. And
100%.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, she is she's nothing if not a great grandmother, and those kids love her. That's like their favorite kid, their favorite person in the whole world.
Oh yeah,
I want to go to Meemaw's house.
How rotten, man, are those? I mean, like I can't imagine.
Oh, after this week, it's over with because we're staying at their house this week.
Y'all don't have a chance, man. Going back home and. Am I too far away from my own microphone? See, I take a week off, and now I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm going to give you guys a light over there so you can get my attention. So, you were involved in church here.
Yeah.
Are you involved in church there?
So, I'm not. We go to church.
Yeah. Okay, that's involved.
That's as far as I'm taking it, though. I'm sure you know some of the details about the church that I was a part of here. There's a lot of. I feel like it's been, there was a lot of negativity I saw around the organized religion back then. That would have been 2018, I guess, was the end of that. Yeah. It's when I quit. I left the church, and then we didn't go to church for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Just trying to heal, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's sad when you feel like you have to stay away from church so you can heal.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like that would be the place where you could
That's true.
But unfortunately, when you get to church, there are people there.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, people do people stuff.
There's people there, and they have people issues. But, I've been going to therapy a lot, and just trying to just get past all that, because that was a lot of that for me. I really I took it to heart when everything that I felt like I was working for was kind of just took a nosedive. Yeah. With Did you need us again? Okay.
He's all right. I do that like twice an episode. Like, you okay, man? Serious moment here. Yeah. He's very animated.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that pain, and that's we need humble leaders in the church. That's what we need. That's what it boils down to. After it's been so many years thinking about it. It's like pride's what gets in the way, and what got in the way with that one. Pride comes before a fall, and if you humble yourself, God says that He's going to lift you up. But if you think that you've got it all taken care of, and it's all on you, and that you are the end all be all authority from God, then He's gonna He's not gonna let that slide.
Yeah.
I
gotcha. Well, it's good that you guys are going, right?
Yes.
And instead of just not going at all, you're easing back into things, I guess. And if you're called to be in ministry, you'll realize that sooner or later it's not a choice. But there are times when you've got to take that step back and recover. And because, you build, I guess, most of what you knew about church at that point was what you learned from that situation. And you find out later that's not how it's supposed to be, or things are, not what they seem. So now you've got to kind of relearn all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not the time to be in ministry.
No.
As you're figuring all that stuff out. So,
I stepped away from ministry, and I was like, okay, let's get this figured out.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. And if it wasn't for Alexa, quite honestly, I probably wouldn't have gone back to church. I don't know. It would have taken a lot longer.
You're just ready to give up on it all again?
Yeah, not give up on God, but just church. You know, it's the people.
It's the worst part.
Yeah. If it wasn't for people, that's the worst part of any business or any organization.
Right,
if it wasn't for the people, I'd love running a construction company,
Or
whatever.
Anything. Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know. We got to have that love, though, right?
Yeah.
And understand that it's the bride of Christ, and we're all supposed to be together.
Yeah.
Regardless of who's, and
that's just another thing. Like I've learned that, man, I guess what's helped me the most is realizing that I'm just as capable of doing all the bad things that person did, that pastor or any other bad thing that I'm just as capable.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm just as capable of loving people like Jesus did and living like he did. Like he's the ultimate high, if you want to put it in a high versus low. And then, we've seen the ultimate low. Well, I don't know if we have. I hope I haven't, but you know what I mean? We've seen that negative side of people, and we're all just as capable of it. So I don't know if that's humility or what, but it's like, that's helping me forgive.
It is. Like, and I mean, you think about when all that stuff was going on. You're 30 now, 31?
I'm 33 now. So that was, I think I was 29 when that all ended.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, you're still pretty young as far as that stuff goes. And then you were new to all that thing to begin with.
Right.
So you're looking back now through a different lens than you had when you were in the middle of all that. And it's part of the learning process.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people one of the worst things that ever happened to me was when they made me a deacon in church. And then I got to see, when it was like going to the puppet show and seeing the strings.
Yep.
That's a terrible analogy for church.
Right.
But you understand, like, from the back end, how everything works. And you're like, I don't like some of this the way I thought I did.
Yep.
And
it's not
that even, it may not even mean anybody's got bad intentions. Right. You just don't like the way things are. Or maybe somebody does have bad intentions, or their pride is getting the best of them, or whatever it is. But you're seeing that from a different angle when you're involved, as opposed to just sitting in a pew. I hope everybody that's watching this still goes to church on Sunday. But it's a good thing. It's a positive thing. Go to church. But it's hard for us when that curtain gets pulled back and we can see
for sure
the sausage being made.
That's it. And it's like, we're, But then again, we've all got issues. And I think it's, I think if somebody, again, it just keeps going back. The leader of the church needs to be humble and needs to not just say the right words, but walk that out, And that's not being perfect, but just being the best they can be.
Well, I always say, you can get up in front of the room and talk, right? But if you're not who you're supposed to be, and you're not praying, and you're not really studying and all those things, it's a book report, right? That we've all been doing since we were in second grade. You stand in front of the room. I read this book, and this is what it said. There's got to be more than that, and there's certainly, the preaching is like this much of a pastor's job,
right?
And for all you audio only people, I got you about an inch and a half here. But it's it's 3% of the pastor's job,
right? Yes,
like not much at all. But so many of us get wrapped up in that, and it's easy to go, well, look at all the people that come hear me talk on Sundays or Sunday night or Wednesday, whenever it is. And then before you know it, you're an entertainer.
Yeah.
And that's tough. It's that pride thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's why God, we're in our church right now. This is the whole thing. I think that's why God has kept us small, because he knows that I would go, well, look at what a great pastor I am.
For those listening, it's 16, 17 chairs in here.
Yeah,
maybe 20.
You got
10, 20.
15 over here.
There you go.
But we had, I think we had 28 people in here yesterday.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. All those chairs were full just about now.
Just about, yeah. But it's not, if we started out there were 3 families.
Yeah.
And I think if we'd have had 150 people overnight, it would have been a problem for me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're easing into this thing, and I say easing, it's been 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
So God knows what he's doing.
100%.
As it turns out.
Yeah, exactly. As it turns out. So you said 2.5 years here.
Yeah. We started in April of 21. We
Very
weren't
nice.
here then, but.
Yeah. So what surprised you the most, or what's the most surprising thing about being a pastor?
The
that
terrible
you did?
people. It's that it never stops.
Yeah.
Because I've preached before, and like when I was a deacon and serving in church and things, and the preacher would say, hey, can you preach for me on March the 28th? And I go, yeah, I got 6 weeks. I can, 6 weeks to plan a sermon, right? I got to do it every week now, and I try to stay a couple weeks ahead or whatever, but it never stops.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the people who are not involved in my church that ask me for help with things, like that they should either ask their own pastor or find a pastor and become part of a church and have that, whether it's my church or somebody else's,
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. Kind of like people thinking just because you're the pastor, you've got something to give them, or maybe you even owe them something when it's like, I've got this bandwidth, I'm human too.
Yeah.
That's I'm sure that is a very it's a balancing act between the people who are faithful here and that are really wanting help or need help, and then people who may or may not or should.
They want to use the pastor.
They want to use
tire,
yes.
Pull them out when there's an emergency.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's a thing, but I mean, it's sort of what you sign up for at the same time, and
exactly.
You just gotta. I don't think you realize the degree until you're living it.
That's right. Yeah. I think that's anything though. Is like with this business.
Well, we were talking about that, right?
Yeah. I did not expect it to be. I told you guys. I said it's every bit as hard as I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's sometimes I'm like, I really didn't expect me to be losing sleep over it, or.
Well, you said people are calling you on Sunday morning.
Yeah, Sunday morning at 8 a.m. I had two customers calling me yesterday on vacation, Thanksgiving week. So I'm like, man, and you just got to let it roll. Yeah. I talked to the one guy yesterday, and in the afternoon, he's like, man, sorry. He's actually a friend of mine. He's like, sorry for bothering you on Sunday. I'm like, that's what I'm here for, buddy.
Yeah.
And it's the customer service that you want to provide for these people. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you pay for when you pay for a roof like from Midian or any good company. You're paying for that service and quality assurance. So
hopefully, I mean that's what you expect when you go to church as well, right? It's not a quote unquote customer, so to speak, but it's the same. They're expecting quality. One of my old pastors, Ron Chancellor Tango, you remember that guy? He talked about doing things with excellence. Like we would rather not do them at all than not do them excellently.
Yeah,
so that's kind of what we get into every Sunday morning when I think about what Ron said. Is this going to be excellent or not?
That's something I've dealt with. It's funny you use that word because I'm a big advocate for therapy, by the way. So I've been going to therapy, and that was one of the biggest things because I'm kind of a perfectionist. I didn't realize it, but I am. And when it comes to construction, nothing's ever perfect. Ever. Yeah. I mean, and really anything in life. But when you're building a deck or you're doing a roof or anything, like the mistakes are going to be made. Things are going to go off track, at some point. Hopefully not with every job, but at some point something's going to go wrong. And, the difference is how you respond to that and are you going to fix it?
Yeah.
But I was really letting that just weigh on me. Like if I had if I had something go wrong or something needed fixing, I would let this pressure build up on me. And my therapist, he's like, dude, he didn't say dude, but he's like, you've got to, one of the things that we discussed and we talked about is the only thing I can do is bring my best and then let the chips fall where they may, and just know that I'm gonna fix anything if it goes wrong. And so we came up with that word excellence. I'm just gonna bring my excellence to this podcast. I'm gonna bring my excellence when I go home to my family and be the best dad I can be. And for me, I can kind of compartmentalize that. And again, you just ask yourself, am I bringing excellence? Am I bringing, maybe not even my best, but am I bringing excellence to this sermon?
Yeah.
Am I bringing excellence to this family who needs prayer or whatever? So that's I love that. What was the pastor's name who said that?
Ron Chancellor.
Yeah. That's a wise guy.
Yeah. He was our pastor at Castle Baptist for a while. I forget the place he's at now. You know the name of the church he's in now? Maybe. He just got back from Suriname, or where's he been? Somewhere. He's world traveler on top of.
Was he the guy that went to Tennessee with us that time from that church?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I met him then.
Okay. Yeah. Man,
yeah.
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah. That I don't know what year that would have been. Maybe 17.
It was after the big fire up there.
Yeah.
We had just been there with the youth group, and the cabins we were in burned down and all that mess.
Dang.
Yeah. And then so we were back up there with Chris Harris, a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Just a couple of weeks later.
Yeah. That was
man,
fun.
I'd forgotten about that. That was great.
Yeah, I went with you guys. It was me, you, Chris, and then John Warren.
Yep. And Erica, his wife.
That's
and
right.
And Lisa Logue went with us too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, for what it was a good time.
Took clothes up there, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was good. I'd forgotten about that. Man,
Interesting.
we really have been like on this parallel timeline forever.
Yeah, for a long time. For a long time. We went up to Gatlinburg again this past summer, I think. It's nice up there.
It's not bad. I'm not a big fan. There's too many people.
I think it's probably way more packed in the wintertime.
Oh, yeah.
Than when we went.
I've never been in the summer. I don't guess.
Yeah, it was.
Tango agrees. Better in the summer. So you've mentioned therapy a couple times. Can we get into that?
Yeah, for sure. Ask me anything, man. Okay, that's what I'm here for. So let me just while we're here, why I asked you about the podcast. Like the reason I want to start a podcast is because, and you're gonna have this because you've been doing this so long. Your kids are gonna be able to listen to these after you're gone. Your grandkids.
I've never thought about that. Terrifies me.
And they're gonna be like, all right, I understand my dad a little bit, or I understand my granddad. Like I want to leave. That's the biggest thing about like I try to think about everything from that legacy standpoint, and so I do want to share as much, even if it's painful. I want to be able to share the things that I've learned in life, so that Ezra and Eliza, my two kids, and hopefully there's more later. They can have that, because what if you're, I don't know, think about your parents growing up. They didn't have this opportunity to sit here and record their conversations, and we do. Yeah. And so I think there's, from that perspective, and when I think about it, I'm like, we almost have a responsibility to share.
No, we have to, right?
What we've learned and what we know. So
I hadn't thought about it in terms of like my kids and grandkids. Even I know, and I've addressed it many times on the podcast. Like we're doing this on November 20th of 2023. But as long as there's an internet, somebody will be able to dig these things up and find it's like a time capsule.
It really is. It's.
But I've never thought of it personally. Like my kids are going to listen to this when they're my age, or something like that.
It'd be like finding your great grandfather's diary or something one day. It's like,
and then getting to hear his voice or see the video.
Yeah. So
man, that makes this a little more important, doesn't it?
So
smokes.
We just raise the stakes.
Sit up straight in my chair now. No, that does. That raises the stakes a lot. It's a good way to say that. Because it's forever.
So, like I said, as long as there's an internet.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that these platforms will somehow, that's all going to keep. Who knows where that's going to go, first of all.
Oh, man. Yeah. I don't know. I'm waiting on my first AI episode to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, of you that you didn't do.
Yeah, that I had nothing to do with. Yeah.
But no, I'd be happy to talk about therapy.
Yeah, that's what would put me into therapy. So we'll pick up there. But so you have decided that therapy is a good route for you.
Yes, and I'll tell you what kind of convinced me. I tried therapy back in 2020. Yeah, I think so, because we were all wearing masks. But yeah, so I tried it then, didn't like it, didn't work for me. Could have been the guy, I don't know. I don't know. Could have been me, probably me. So yeah, I was what really kind of convinced me, like, all right, maybe I should go talk to somebody, is because along those same lines of me like wanting to record stuff for my kids, I've recorded a few videos of me talking into a mic. Started out for my kids, but then the more I talked, and this is just you feel silly because it's me talking into a computer,
hard,
with nobody. Like I'm like, I might not ever even like share this with anybody, but then I realize as I'm talking, it's like I'm digging stuff out from inside me, and I felt better afterwards, and I'm like, I really felt like I kind of figured some stuff out by just talking.
Yeah.
And so I connected with this guy. He's had his doctorate in psychology long as I've been alive, probably, and I was kind of specific. I looked through some people, and I was like, this guy seems like he'd be a good fit. He's a good guy, Christian guy. Like I said, very experienced. So when I go in there, it's almost like in my mind, this kind of may sound weird, but I'm like, I just feel like I'm talking to myself when I'm talking to him. Like the questions that he pulls out of me, I'm like, they're already there. It's just he's helping. And so I don't even think about it from like what this guy might think of me or anything like that. I'm just getting all these emotions out, and then he kind of helps me navigate them. And Dude, I think this week has been, we got here on Saturday. This is Monday. So the past 2 days with my parents, like, I don't care who you are, staying in a house with your parents is, after you've not lived with them for several years, is going to be some sort of something.
Yeah.
And it's been absolutely just pleasant.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, on my end anyways, is because of the way I'm perceiving things on the inside. I'm like, and a lot of that has to do with therapy. So, yeah, I think it's something that not enough men do, and then especially not enough guys who, like we were talking about with the military guys, and suicide being such a big thing. I think that would be a good place for those guys to start. And it doesn't have to be. I don't think it necessarily has to be a therapist, but just talking to somebody about the way you feel, because once you get it out in the open, this is the best way I've heard it described, is like, if you've got these thoughts in your mind, as soon as I share them with you, it's like I am opening a door or a window and letting light in that dark room in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more you're able to share that kind of stuff, the more light, quote unquote, you'll let in. And, I mean, how many times have we had a conversation with somebody, and probably in ministry it happens a lot. I know in ministry with me it happened, is like somebody's pouring their heart out to me, confessing some horrible thing that they've done, and like so ashamed, and they've been dealing with it for years and years and years. I'm like, yeah, dude, I've done the same thing. And it just, you can see this like, oh, wow, you mean I'm not the only one that's done that?
What gets you past, you talked about a minute ago, dealing with, or not having to deal with however comfortable you are. This guy, how's he going to think about me after I say these things? But to hear that, somebody say, well, I've done the same thing.
I've done it.
Yeah.
It's like the best thing you can hear.
That breaks down all the walls, right?
Right.
Oh, man.
Because we think that, I think that we all tend to think that everybody else is doing way better than us, and we're the only ones that are dealing with X, Y, and Z. And it's like, the more you communicate with people, the more you realize that's not the case.
Well, especially in the age of social media, right? Like, we go live on Facebook when something awesome's happening. Nobody does that at a funeral.
Right.
Like, nobody does that when they get fired from their job, or,
it's a highlight reel. And,
so you just assume everybody's going great.
Man.
That guy bought a new boat. He must be fantastic. Turns out he's up to his eyeballs in debt.
Yes.
And he's miserable. And
Yeah. That's the thing we've got to understand. And social media is hard on that aspect, because it makes it. I try to stay off that stuff, man. It's just, but it's hard. It's addicting.
It is. Well, it's where everybody's at. So
it's
you
like,
want to see what's going on, or and
my father-in-law's on Facebook now, and
we just became, almost knocked that word out. We just became friends the other day. I was like, is that the same guy?
It's been like, I mean, we've been married like 8 years now, and he's like, not getting that crap, adamant, not gonna do it. And then next thing I know, Facebook friend request. I'm like, what are you doing? Now he sends me stuff on Messenger, videos and stuff.
Yeah. So he's figured it out.
Oh, he said, I see what the kids mean now. I see why they're on it.
Oh, man. Bless his heart. He's hooked now. He got him.
He's like, I gotta limit myself, so he told Alexa.
He'll be on Temu buying stuff before you know it. Bless his heart. So what was your approach to therapy? Like, what opened you up to saying, I need to go? I know you said it kind of came out when you were making these videos.
Yeah.
But what was the thing that got you over the top as far as going to talk to somebody?
I think that pressure I was talking about earlier with the trying to just control everything. I was feeling that so much. I kind of got to a point. This was I don't know, a few months ago, I guess. It was well, I know exactly when it was. It was right around the time that the business took off and Alexa hurt her knee, and all that.
Yeah.
And we're up there by ourselves, so I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack or something. Not really, but I was like, my chest is tight, and I'm just like, and Alexa was kind of worried about me, but she's learned that if she said, hey, you need to go to therapy, I'll be like, no, I'm not. So she doesn't say anything, or she knows when to say stuff, I guess. And I guess that, that pressure, just realizing that I need to talk to somebody so I can help sort my brain out, all these thoughts and emotions and stuff that I don't know what to do with. I need to sort these out. Otherwise, I don't really know what's going to happen here. Like, not quite sure if this is going to be good or bad.
Right.
So that was kind of it for me. I've always had I've always, I guess, trended towards depression a little bit, and just feeling down and not feeling great about myself and stuff like that. And so I've always kind of just, I guess, tried to figure out what's going to work for me the best as far as being the best version of myself that I can be.
Yeah.
And so at this point, therapy is helping a lot. And of course, man, I mean, I might not have been in church the past however many years, but my walk with God has still been, close. So yeah, that's what I would, or really what drove me was like, just feeling this pressure. Like, I need to share this, what's inside of me, with somebody else who can hopefully handle it and help me.
Right. So how did you find your therapist?
I went online and over the course of a few days kind of looked through people in the area that really on Google is how I did it. I went to the websites and just read through, and I wanted somebody who was an older man.
Mm-hmm.
Because an older man will know exactly what I've been through. He's been in my shoes. And then I wanted somebody who was qualified, and just been doing this a long time. And so that's what I did. I found his website, and him and his wife have a practice. And then, I looked at some of the other websites, and it was like, and I didn't want telehealth or virtual, nothing. I wanted it to be in person. So, I just looked through, and he was the one that stood out. There was really, he's the only one that stood out to me. I looked through all these other websites, and I'm just like, eh. And so I almost didn't, but then I kind of found this guy's website, and I was like, all right.
So you got to pick your guy, though. It wasn't like a referral or.
Yeah, it was. And that was the thing is a lot of the big companies that I looked at, it was like, we have 27 therapists on staff or whatever. And I'm like, I don't want 27. I want one guy who is going to know who I am and know what I'm dealing with, and not somebody who's just reading through my profile or whatever, So that was, I definitely wanted that one-on-one. So I just found them. And it's funny because I realized therapy, a lot of therapists don't have good reviews, because if you go to therapy and you have a great, you're probably not, you might not want anybody to know you're there or whatever. There's still a stigma around it. So it's like, no, so it's only when it's bad. Like so-and-so did this, and so that's just some heads up for folks if they go looking for therapists.
So right, I can imagine like what kind of reviews does a therapist get?
Right.
If I take my own issues in there and I don't feel like he's the guy, and I just write him a nasty review.
That's why I was like, I'm not going to pay attention to reviews, which I think this guy actually had good reviews. I can't remember. Yeah. But
so, but you a concern for a lot of people is that you got to pay for this.
Yeah.
Is this something that you get VA benefits or any of those things?
I don't. The VA told me that my health issues were not service related, my mental health issues. So, I could fight it, I'm sure. But
yeah, but it's do you have to fight it?
Yeah, I mean, and then the bureaucratic red tape with the VA.
It can take years.
You can only imagine. There's companies that will do it for you, but you still have to pay them a lot of money. So no, I don't get any help. I just pay out of pocket. It's expensive. I know that there are some insurances that cover it, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to say it on air. I think insurance is kind of a big scam.
Oh, let's talk about it. Yeah. No, I was having this conversation a couple of days ago.
It's nuts, man.
Well, you pay for insurance, and it doesn't cover the things you need it to cover. So then you got to pay for that too while you're still paying for the insurance. Like we dropped our insurance a couple of years ago.
Do you do anything or just?
I've got just recently we've got Guidestone through where I work with Trail Life USA, and we're a ministry, so we have access to that. I mean, I guess I did as a pastor anyway, but but it's minimal, and the ministry covers it. Like we don't have to pay for it.
That's cool.
So it's but I didn't see the sense in paying the doctor and the insurance company. There just wasn't.
When Alexa got hurt in August, the insurance, and we pay a lot of money every month, and it's like the insurance is like, oh well, that your policy doesn't cover physical therapy for your knee. We'll pay for the surgery, but you're still gonna have to pay $7,000, and then we're not gonna cover physical therapy. And so we had to upgrade to some other coverage with them, and then it actually ended up they covered that, and I think they only charged us like, I don't know, it's like $4,000 or something.
You start negotiating cash price, and it comes way down all
yeah,
of a sudden. It's a miracle.
So, and I deal with insurance a lot on the roofing side of things too, and it's just a big like. Well, you get the federal government involved or the state government involved, and it messes everything up.
They're not good at anything.
And they're no, except encroaching on your rights.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think they've ruined healthcare. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but something's going to have to be done.
We've got an herbalist here in town, as it turns out. It's looking more like a better option.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to I don't know. Get some massages and go to chiropractors and wish for the best.
Exercise, try to stay healthy. Yeah.
But if you gotta go to the doctor, that's the number one reason for bankruptcy in this country. Is medical bills. Yeah. So it's
that's awful. That's a huge barrier for some people, especially concerning mental health. I got to pay for that.
And that's really something I haven't really considered. Is like It's not cheap either, especially a good one. And I think that's the thing too, is maybe the one I was going to before was less expensive because the insurance was covering it. Maybe that had something to do with the quality. I'm sure, but it's tough. And so you get people out there who don't know. They don't know if they could afford it or if their insurance would afford it, and then or maybe they don't even have insurance, and so they know for dang sure they can't afford
insurance is definitely not covering
insurance or mental health treatment. And it's sad. It's sad.
But that's when other people, like some outlet, becomes important, right? Mm-hmm. Say you just can't afford going to therapy. You just can't. You got to find somebody that's in your same, especially veterans, that are you can know some other guy that's doing the same thing you're doing, and you confide in each other. Yeah. Or a group of people or whatever.
I wish that more veterans would confide in each other. It's and the veteran suicide rate, I don't know if it I've tried to figure this out. Is it like something that the military does to the veterans that makes them want to do that, or is it just that they were already had that temperament, and that's it's like the temperament that it requires to join the military maybe is more prone to that.
We had Jeriah Tucker on here recently, and we talked about the two types of people that would become police officers. And they were the guys that would write speeding tickets, or they were the guys that were trying to make felony arrest. So far in. But then you look at people who join the military, and there's so many people that come out with mental health issues, or they're fighting alcoholism, or all these different things. And then you have the guys that do 20 years and they love it and it's the best thing ever, and like, okay, so what's going on? And then you look at the suicide rate. Yeah. And you look at combat guys and non-combat guys, and it's not really any different.
It's the same.
Yeah. So is it, do you point at that and you go, is it the type of person that joins the military, or is it something we're doing, the common ground there is training. Right. Yeah. The training that you go through where it seems like, they erase your individuality and do all these things. And I sound like I'm, putting on the military right now, but like, that's what has to happen to get everybody to march and step, and we've all got to be one. So are we doing something to our guys that causes this thing to happen to them when they go down this path in their mind?
I know. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I just know it's way too many. I have guys, I was thinking today, I'm trying to think how many. I want to say there's at least 3, but possibly 4 guys that I knew personally and like hung out with, not just like, oh, I knew that guy. Like there's a bunch of guys I knew who killed themselves. It's like, oh, I knew him. Yeah. But guys who were my friends, and like we drank beer together on the weekends and work together and all this, and it's like they do it, and it's like, what is? I don't know. I don't know what I don't know what the reason is, but there's definitely a lot of common denominators that need to be looked at. But
have you ever talked to other veterans about it?
Yeah, not in depth.
Yeah. How does that get received? Like on a grand scale, do people want to listen or have that conversation?
I think a lot of veterans want to talk about it and want to figure out what we can do about it because, we all know somebody. I think, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's sad. It's I don't know if I've talked to I think a lot of what the problem is like we're not going to talk to each other. We're in this mindset of like, okay, I gotta man up and carry this on my own, so I'm not going to share the load with anybody else. Yeah. And then it just crushes us, and they end up taking their life. And so that's a lot of the reason is that guys just, I don't think they are reaching out or trying to ask for help, which I get, because when you're in that depressive state, when you're in that low state, you don't want any help.
No, it's easy
to stay
there. Leave me
alone.
Yeah.
I want to be isolated, so I get it. But these guys have got to understand that the world is a worse place without them. No matter what they think, the world is a worse place without them. You look at our friend who committed suicide less than 2 weeks ago. Yeah. For whatever reason, he thought that his kids would have a better life if he was dead, and that's not true at all. That's 0% true. Because your kids are going to think that it was their fault somehow,
right? More than likely,
and it just sends ripple effects throughout your entire family, the present, and the your future family too.
That's the end, right? Is where the guy thinks everybody in my life is better off without me. So something happens to get those guys to that point.
Yeah.
And it might or might not be, everybody thinks they went to combat and, saw things, but that's not the case.
Yeah,
not always.
No, and that's the thing is like, out of all the guys I knew, I think, I don't know about one of them, but out of the 4 guys I mentioned, is like I know for sure 2 of them didn't see any combat.
Yeah.
And so it's like, one friend of mine, I was his direct supervisor right before I got out. When I left, he took my spot, and so we text and stuff. He would ask me questions after I got out, and then he went on to be a EOD, which is the explosive ordnance disposal. Mm-hmm. So he diffuse bombs and stuff, and he got put on recruiting duty, and he posted a little bit before he died. He said recruiting duty. He said recruiting duty is career suicide, and I'm like, damn. And then he killed himself.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just career suicide. It was, for him, it was something else.
You don't, like, you get told you're going to recruit, right?
Yeah, you pretty much have you get orders. You're kind of, you don't have much of a say.
Right, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I know that. Like, I know I'm buddies with Keith Doucette here locally. I don't know if you know Keith or not. Mm-hmm. He's an Army recruiter, and he enjoys being a recruiter. Mm-hmm. And there are guys that do. He's been there forever. But I've met other guys. We went on a tour one time at Fort Jackson for educators, and there was a bunch of recruiters there from all over talking about the Army and what we should go back and tell our students and whatever. And most of those guys hated being a recruiter. They didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
One guy he was a lieutenant colonel. And he had worked at the Pentagon, and it was a Green Beret.
Oh, gosh.
Everybody's saluting this dude. And I'm like, what's the deal? And they were like, look at his hat. Well, I'm colorblind. Like, it doesn't, somebody had to explain it to me. And I was like, okay, he's a recruiter, right? This guy's been there and done it. And now you're like, go into high schools at lunchtime and talk to these idiot kids.
Yeah, for a lot of guys, it's like, it feels like you have zero meaning, I guess.
But, I mean, I guess it's got to be done. Like, you got to go get people, because nobody's like driving to the office to try to sign up,
No. Oh, well, I did. I called him and said, hey, I'm going to sign up.
I mean, I guess it does.
That was probably the easiest one.
Yeah, right. This is definitely what I want to do.
But, yeah, I think most people have to be coerced.
Yeah.
That's a real thing, is like you get these guys who served in combat or had a lot of a meaning behind what they were doing at a certain unit, and then it's like, now you're going to recruiting duty, and they're just like, dude, this is – and then your career kind of depends on – the decisions of a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old kids. Like, what?
Right, yeah.
Because if you don't meet these quotas, you're not getting promoted lieutenant colonel.
Right.
Well, 17-year-old kids being flaky. I mean,
right.
So,
that's tough.
Yeah, it's like anything else, man. You pull the curtain back and it's like, ooh, it's not as pretty as it looks.
But I mean, I don't know once you're in, I mean, you go to, like in the Army, you go to basic, and then you go to AIT. I don't know what it's called in the Marines, but it's
you go to boot camp, then you go to it's called MCT. It's Marine Combat Training.
Okay, so that's where you cover it's not MOS in the Marines. What is it?
Yeah, it is MOS. So that's actually just combat training, and then you go to your MOS school.
Okay.
So boot camp, I think it's 12 weeks now, but it was 13. Then you have I think it was about a month at Camp Geiger for combat training, and then then your MOS school. So then that could range from a month to,
depending on
it was like 10 months for me. I'm sure there's some that are longer, but yeah.
So is it, once you're in and you've done all that, how hard is it to change? Can you change MOS?
You can like, I guess, kind of like apply to do it. And if they think it's called a lateral move. And so, yeah, you can try, and there's guys who do it. And then some MOSs like my friend who was EOD, you've got to actually be in 4 years before you can even join EOD. So you get an EOD and you're a sergeant, you're kind of like at the bottom of the food chain, so to speak, but they all get treated real good because they're very, specialized.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not that difficult. It just depends on what the numbers look like and the powers that be, if they want you to.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I was, one of those things where do you get in and feel like you're stuck somewhere? I wonder if that's a contributing factor to some of these guys.
Yeah.
Their
I guess
mental
so.
state, and I don't know what that process is like other than what you just explained. But
yeah, and like my friend, him going on recruiting duty, the reason he said that it was career suicide is because he understood that if he had to stay in Wichita, Kansas, or wherever he was for 3 years, the way that the war was going at the time and the way that technology changes, he's going to get out after 3 years and be in charge of people and not know his job and get people killed. And that's why he was like, and so I don't know, I just saying that out loud, maybe he thought that I'm going to kill myself instead of somebody else dying on my watch. And I don't know, there's so much that goes into that, I guess.
Yeah, you never really know what's in somebody's head, but that makes as much sense as anything else.
Yeah, it does. So who knows? Who knows?
I don't know, man. We're doing something to our guys.
Yeah.
And we need to find out what it is. And I don't think we're chasing that very hard.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think more people were killed, have been killed since 2001 or whenever we invaded Afghanistan, and then and then Iraq. More people have died via suicide than combat deaths, and it's like,
we're at war for 20 years.
Yeah, we're at war for 20 years.
We lost more people to suicide.
Yeah. Wow. So, it's I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, man.
I don't know, man.
I want to give you something positive there, but I'm not quite sure what.
Well, what is there? Like, nobody seems to know, and a lot of people aren't very willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
The people that should be talking about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know.
It's one of those things, man. It's like, all right. And then I go a few months and nobody dies, and I'm like, well, maybe this isn't such an epidemic. And then somebody that you went to high school with.
Well, I mean, somebody somebody that somebody that knows somebody,
yeah, exactly.
And you're 2 degrees away or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's a thing that we gotta look at.
Figure out, yeah.
But I mean, I think the best we can do for now is, reaching out, saying something to anybody, for that matter.
And I try
to being receptive to people who might be trying to reach out to you.
Exactly. Yeah. You've got to answer the phone when they reach out.
Yeah. That's the tough part, right? Well, like, if I answer his call, he's going to know I'm broken too.
Yeah. Right.
And, because I'm going to have to say, I feel the same way.
Yeah. What if we did? What if my buddy calls me and is like, dude, I'm not doing good. I'm like, yeah, me neither. Let's figure this out. I don't know. I think we just got to start being real with each other. Yeah. It goes back to that being humble thing.
Is it any different? I haven't looked so deeply, I guess. Is it any different between male and female?
Oh, it's definitely male.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. It's way more men do it, which there's way more men in the military anyways.
Right. But percentage-wise.
I think overall suicide's more like 80,
no,
20 men.
Apart from the military, I know it's a
I don't know the I don't know if what the actual ratio would be in the military, but I do know it's a lot more guys who do it. Probably because it's like.
I'm sorry, I just try to make you the expert on the.
No, and let's just say I'm not a. I'm not a full disclosure. I'm no expert, but somebody who's been in the military and you know.
You're not the first. I've had Keith on before a couple times, but we've never gotten anything like this. We should. We should need to drag him into something like this.
Yeah.
But he's still active, so I don't know how much he would or could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows with all that. But I think just talking about it too is I try to post videos when I can. And, and
you had a solid one the other day on Veterans Day.
Yeah, man. It was the day before that other guy, took his life. So it was like, dang. It's crazy. I was thinking about it. I'm like, if I hadn't posted that video on Friday because he took his life on Saturday, I would have felt like it was my fault somehow, because I didn't say something. Like, I was going to and I didn't.
But so that helps you then. You know that it wasn't your fault that he did that, you know, because you said something, exactly. And it was a 2-minute Facebook video.
Yeah.
But it was something.
It was something.
And it didn't, maybe he didn't see it. Maybe it didn't hit home with him, but it might have hit home for somebody.
Right.
So it's important for us to get that message out and let people know that we're available. I'm not a veteran. I can't imagine, what it is you guys go through. But as veterans, as men, to put ourselves out there and go, hey, I'm receptive.
Yeah.
Right. You got things going on. I've had things going on.
Yeah.
Let's relate on some level and try to work this out before it comes to an end like that.
Yeah. 100%. And I think it is important as men because we're supposed to, we're tribal animals, really. Humans are tribal. Yeah. And as men, we need other men around us who can basically do that and say, let's, I've been through this, we're going through this or whatever, and share and just be that, support for each other. Yeah. I think it's very, very important. And it's harder in this country. The Western society is such an individual society that it's harder than I'm sure other places around the world. But
it feels like people in other places in the world rally around their similarities better than we do here because we want to be, we want to keep up with the Joneses, or we want the Joneses to try to keep up with us, I guess is a better way to say it. We want to feel like we're this much ahead of the neighbors, and I'm doing better. But
yep. And it's like, man, we could pool our resources and probably get a lot more done.
What?
I think about that, man. I'm like, if me and my brothers pooled our resources.
Oh, yeah.
And we could buy any piece of property we wanted and raise our families. But that's not the American way of doing things.
No, it's not. I want to own the whole farm by myself, right?
Yeah.
You guys can stare over the fence if you want to, but don't come over here. But
you can buy the next lot.
Man, maybe that's the answer. Maybe we get big groups of veterans to go in and buy 1,000-acre ranches together.
And then I'm down.
Yeah. Maybe
I'm down.
I don't have the means to even start something like that.
Well, me neither, but hey.
But we can plant the idea, though, right, for whoever might be listening?
A 1,000-acre ranch where we raise cattle and horses and stuff.
Hey, you raise cattle, you horses, you hunt and fish on there, and you
have a bonfire every night.
Yeah. You have some brotherhood going on there. Because I think you lose a lot, I think, when you come out. For whatever it is that we're doing in the military, when we come out, we're suddenly not with our people anymore.
Right.
You came back to Rome, Georgia. Your buddy went back to Walla Walla, Washington, and the other one went to, Bangor, Maine.
Yep.
And you may or may not ever see each other again.
Exactly.
When you were like training together for life and death.
Yep.
And suddenly he's just gone.
Yeah.
And
it's a huge shift in your life. I mean, you're just like thrown into somewhere new. It's like, holy cow. A lot of adjustment. I'm sure a lot of guys struggle with that. I mean, I know they do. I saw my friend, I saw a couple buddies for the first time since 2013. So it's 10 years. Yeah, this past year, and that was the first time we've seen each other. And these were like my boys that I hung out with every weekend. Yeah. So it was the exact same thing. It's like, but what was cool was that we get there together. That's who I met in Gatlinburg, and we had this cabin. We get there, and then it was like we never were separated. It was like we picked back up.
When you see two guys and maybe they're 95 years old and they've got their hats on, you know, and they see each other and there's that instant bond.
Yeah.
And just like maybe two guys didn't even know each other.
Right.
You know, and certainly if they did, they just come back together and it's like they were never apart after 50 years of not seeing each other. But
I think that's probably a lot to do with it. Is these guys get out and they think that they're by themselves. And, you know, and again, and then social media, it's, you know, running that aspect is like, oh, look at Lyle. He's got his pictures with his family and stuff on there. He's doing great. I'm not going to bother him because he doesn't want me to bother him. I know I deal with that. It's like, I don't want to bother them.
He looks busy.
He looks like he's doing where I might need you to call me just as bad as you need me, you know, to call you. So it's we're all just kind of going through something, you know, so it's, everybody's not doing way better than us. We got to remember
that's
that.
That's the thing to remember is that it's not, you know, social media is not what it's what the picture that it paints, and you know, you assume that you're the only one in the trench.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
But we're not, guys. There are other guys out there that you know, whatever, you're in the military, you're not in the military, you're just dealing with life and things that happen.
You got the
other people are too.
The enemy's still whispering to you. It doesn't matter who you are. So
what is it that you said? The devil never takes a day off. He never something.
Takes a break.
Yeah, evil never takes a break. Yeah,
that's true.
So it's there all the time.
Yeah,
it's always in the back of your head. And
yep.
Yeah.
So it's about opening that door of your mind and letting some light in from somebody else.
That's a good analogy. So, let that light in, because there's not. That's what it feels like when you're in that pit of depression, when you don't want to get out of the bed, you don't want to brush your teeth, take showers, and do those things, and it's just like you feel like you're in the dark.
Yeah.
And then if you can take that first step, whatever it is, getting off the couch or picking up the phone or sending a text message or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It just gets the ball rolling.
It does. And there's so many things that are good for you that you can do. You know, my wife swears if she doesn't work out, it's a mental health thing for her. It's not physical, it's mental.
Yeah.
I like going for walks and stuff like that. You know, get out in nature, and it's like you come back. I leave my phone, you know, on the counter. I come back and it's like, oh man, all right, all those problems that I was worried about, they're still there, but they're not as big.
Yeah.
Because you know, you can
get a minute to step back.
A minute, just to realign yourself and realize, these problems aren't so bad.
Yeah. Well, and they, you know, they'll be there.
They're gonna,
you can deal with them.
They're gonna come
when you
and
have
go.
time, and
No,
that's
absolutely.
Life,
yeah, for sure. So speaking about the, I don't know what time you have.
I got about 10 minutes till 8.
Okay, I don't know how long you want to take, but
how much longer do we have?
600 minutes.
Okay, cool.
600 minutes. We're good. No, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about I listened to the podcast you did after your son died, and I want to just kind of bring that up, and if you don't mind,
I don't mind
at
all,
and talk about him.
Yeah.
So how did you respond after that? Obviously, a lot of grief, and did you go through like depression or anything?
No, and I still ask myself 2.5 years later if I'm kidding myself about that.
Sure.
You know, we got in the car at the hospital that night, and I think I mentioned it in the podcast, and we said, this has got to point people to Jesus. Like it has to. That's the only, you know, with that type of unimaginable sorrow and tragedy, like it's going to either destroy your faith and prove that it wasn't ever real to begin with, or it's going to galvanize it.
Yeah.
And other people around you are going to see that one way or the other. You know, we started this church in April of 21. We lost him in June.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize. Holy cow.
Right. So we're in the middle of like getting this church off the ground and all these things. And I could have said, you know, the heck with all that. I'm not doing this anymore, you know, whatever. And I took several weeks off. But then what would people have said?
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't do it because of what people might have said, but I did it because eternity is at stake for a lot of people. And if people who were on the fence or had their doubts or whatever saw that and they go, yeah, that thing he always talked about must not have been real, or it would have been there for him in that time. But that was it. That was what we had. And Jessica, you know, kind of looked the same way. It was that we didn't have a choice but to make it point to Jesus. And since that time, man, it's, you know, we trained down here at the Scramble Jiu-Jitsu. Number one, 6 guys from the gym carried his casket.
Wow.
Right. So that's the type of bond that you get.
Yeah, he trained there too, right?
Yeah, right. So that's the brotherhood that you build, like in a group of men where you find this common ground. But since that time, I don't know, 4, 5, 7 other guys have come to Christ.
Wow.
From
that
that group. And I'm not going to say it was because of what I did, but like God uses us
still,
and he opens doors for a lot of people, and he goes, well, that guy, he's serious about that thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that he went through this, and he was still that guy on the other side. And again, it's not, I say that I'm that guy and I'm doing all these things. Without God,
right.
I would have been a useless puddle, right? And never done anything else again in my life. But just asking for his strength in that moment, because we'll say things, and I changed the language that I used on that. At one point in my life, I would say, give me strength, right? Give me some strength. And when we do that, we limit it. Like, God, give me, this cup full of strength right here, and that'll get me. Well, like God's strength, if we ask him to be our strength, it's immeasurable.
Yeah.
And we can do insane things that we never thought of, like give the eulogy at our child's funeral. So I'm walking up the steps to do that, right, with the whole church behind me, and I'm going to go up and give my son's eulogy. And I hit the steps, and I go, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to be able to turn around and look at these people and say these words. But, in that moment, God makes himself real to us, and he's standing there. And it was like I was standing beside myself, watching myself talk, the things come out of my mouth that I didn't think of, and I hadn't written anything down. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to get up there and do it. And it just God's words coming out, man. And then the number of people that approached me after that and had questions about faith and what does the Bible say about this? And how are you doing this? And I'm like, bro, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm being carried right now. My family is being carried right now, through God's power and in his will, which is greater than ours, even in that time. And, we get into the question I've had to answer a lot of times is, why would God let something like that happen? And, God, we look at the Bible. All you gotta do is look at the Bible, and you see that bad things happen. And it's not like you come to Jesus and bad things stop happening to you.
Right.
But we look at like the 23rd Psalm when he's talking about walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Like, we did that. That's where we were. And we didn't have to fear because he was with us.
Yep.
So not that we weren't going to walk through the valley, but that he was going to be in there with us.
Yep.
And he was. And we knew that and understood it in that the darkest of times. And it was, I did things that I knew wasn't coming from my own source of strength, right? But it was only from him. And, Jessica would tell you the same thing, the stuff that she's done and felt in that time. And it wasn't that we were never hurt, or never sad or any of these things. We still are. And we will be for the rest of our lives. I tell people, I've got a buddy that's a pastor that lost a child a couple of weeks ago. And I told him this realization that I had at one point was that I'll never be 100% again, but I can be 100% of what's left.
Yeah.
And we do that through Christ and the strength that he provides for us.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing testament to, if you just ask for help, if you ask in those times, like you guys left the hospital and were like, okay, God, you're still going to get the glory for this. And then he does it. And that's, man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's something that, a lot of people couldn't fathom, going through, at all. And, no, I mean, well done, is all I can say. I mean, because, you're coming through on even to still be, continue with the church and everything. It's just, when it was, 2 months after, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I just wanted to hear you expound upon that a little bit, because,
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. I know in the podcast you were like, people think, don't ask me about Joseph, but you were like, ask me, because I love talking about him.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, like, if the same thing I would do, I would be like, I want to talk about him.
Yeah.
He was amazing.
He was there for 8 years, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he left a little bit of a mark, but like we keep his memory alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And we get to introduce him to people that never met him,
Yep.
And had the chance to know this kid
Yeah.
through talking about him. And if people don't ask, then we don't, we're not going to be like, hey, let me tell you about my son that died.
Right.
That's a rare occasion that comes up.
Yeah.
People ask, I don't want to rip the Band-Aid off or anything. Like, no, come on, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how awesome he was.
Exactly. Yeah. My grandmother told me one time, she said, don't ever be afraid to ask somebody about their, husband that passed away.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause she loves it when you're, well, she's old now, to the point now where she can't really remember. Like, we just saw her and she doesn't really know who I am. And I'm like, man, this sucks. But she did. She was like, ask people about their loved ones, because I guarantee they want to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah, man.
But I mean, as far as, we've talked about a bunch of different things tonight, and some of them weren't great. The holidays are coming up.
Yeah.
And that's a tough time for a lot of people, and very important time when you're feeling these things to reach out and try to talk to somebody, if it's a pastor, a therapist, whoever.
Yeah, somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, just I know we say it all the time, but it's like, just reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
It can make a huge difference, but I know how hard it is. So but I do want to just keep trying to bring the awareness to it, because I think a lot of people don't understand how big of an epidemic it has been with veterans doing that. And even I didn't realize until it's like, man, I look around and I'm like, dude. And some of my friends who passed away, it was like, years ago, would have been 6 years ago now, but I just found out like 2 years ago. It's like, whoa, I didn't realize. And then you're like, man, I didn't realize he was going through anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, he didn't say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
We kind of chased that around in a circle.
Crazy. Yeah.
We got to talk, man. We got to get it out there. And it's whether you're a veteran or a parent who's lost a child, you got to understand that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one that's, you've got your own unique feelings in the situation, but people have gone down the same paths before.
Exactly.
It's important for us to make ourselves available.
Right.
And for us to admit that we're struggling with things.
Yes.
It's that two-way street.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, man, I probably need to wrap this up pretty soon, but it's been great having you on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun.
Tell everybody how they can find your business. We got listeners in the Raleigh area.
Cool. So you can look us up at ersroofingnc.com. That's the website. And check us out there. We've got, I think all of our socials are at ersroofingnc, if I'm not mistaken. So like facebook.com/ersroofingnc. We got to try to keep content going on there, and just try to do some education about different things and provide a good customer service and good product in the construction industry.
There you go. So, what about Alexa's thing?
So Alexa is doing virtual assistant. You can look her up.
Come on.
I'm not going to remember she's got an Instagram.
What's it called? It's like Alexa.
It's Alexa virtual assistant or something like that.
Can you edit all this together?
Alexa_virtual assistant. That's her Instagram tag. And you can, you can get in touch with her there. She understands now that she's helping me how much bookkeeping and just paperwork is to be done with any small business. So she's just looking for small business owners who are overwhelmed with that and want to kind of put that off on somebody who's responsible and reliable. And
right.
Yeah.
She's both those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
That's it.
Well, man, it's been great.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
Fantastic to just be in the same room with you again.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in forever.
It's been fun. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Love you. See you next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.